Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I have a special guest with me today, Michelle Covey from GS1 US. Going to give us some cool insight about barcodes, getting your listings set up on Amazon, as well as some key information about dealing with listing hijackers, getting your brand name approved on Amazon. Think, Michelle, you also work with Amazon pretty closely as well. So I'm really excited to see what kind of information and good advice we can give to people today for their Amazon business. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Luke. I'm excited to talk to you.
Give us a quick refresher of kind of what you do and what that whole service is about for people in regards to selling on Amazon.
Just as a refresher on GS1 US, we are a not-for-profit organization, most known for the UPC barcode, administering the standards behind that. So the barcode that you hear, it goes beep at the checkout stand. We are a global organization too, so we do manage the standard, not just here locally, but across the globe. There are 116 other GS1 member organizations that we work with. And so that barcode, as you could scan it here in the US, you could also scan it in Europe and Asia, in South America, North America, anywhere around the world, and it will be globally unique.
In the past, when I first started selling on Amazon, I've heard advice from people saying, hey, go to eBay and buy a whole list of 100 barcodes or UPC codes that you can put in when creating your Amazon product listing. Now, when I was comparing the prices of a GS1 barcode, when I started selling on Amazon 5-6 years ago, I thought it was a little more expensive to get one barcode. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only like $30 to actually get an official GS1 barcode. And I've started referring more and more people to that when they create their listings. So let us know how recent that price change has come into effect and how important it is to actually have a legit GS1 barcode versus something you find from a third party.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a great call out, Luke. So yeah, we do hear and a lot of headaches and heartaches from people who do go to a non-GS1 source to get their barcodes. One of the things that we listen to our member community is, as they are starting to sell on Amazon, they may only had one or two products, and buying the barcodes like in bulk, like what we have done for many years traditionally, what we call our prefixes, which allow you to buy a capacity of like 10, 100, 1,000, was still too much for them. And so we rolled out the single G10. It was actually about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. But that seemed to be a great offering for those smaller businesses that needed just one or two G10s or barcodes for their product. It's $30, no annual fee, renewal fee, which I think that was the big like benefit that a lot of people saw, is they didn't like the annual renewal fees. So it's been very popular, especially amongst Amazon sellers. And I think you highlighted something else too. It's really important, especially when working with Amazon, to go with a GS1 issued identifier, because Amazon does use our database to validate and ensure that the barcodes or those G10s do come from a GS1 source. Behind that, you could actually ensure that that product is associated to that company.
And as just a quick mention for anyone watching the video, I'll have the links down below so you can jump right to the official website, get started. It's a pretty easy plug and play process as far as what I've seen so far to get your barcode. How quick do you get it? If you make the payment, do you get the barcode immediately?
Yep, we say near real time. So once, and it's like an e-commerce transaction. So once you go on the website, fill out what you need, whether it's 1, 2, or a prefix where you get that bundle. Once you submit your contact information and your payment information, hit submit. Many times we'll just display it on the screen right there for you within that second or two. But you're also given an email with your information. So once you log off the screen, you still have it.
As far as getting into creating an Amazon product listing, you'll be in your Seller Central account. You press add a product. You get in there, and then oftentimes what I teach people is, hey, we're making our own product listing from scratch. We're going to press the items not already sold on Amazon. You press that button. You get in there. The first thing you got to do is include some product identity information, which will have to throw in that UPC code. Now you're mentioning GTIN and UPC code, and when I spoke with
Mhm.
Megan last time, are those used interchangeably? Because there's two options for that on Amazon, a UPC or a
Uh,
GTIN.
And good call out, because that's one of the first questions we get, especially somebody who's brand new. I just did it too. We use GTIN, barcode, and EAN, UPC all kind of interchangeably, but they have different meanings really. So a UPC barcode is actually the barcode, those lines that you see that actually scan and go beep at the checkout stand. The number underneath it, if you look at the barcode, there's a string of numbers. That's your GTIN, your global trade item number, that is encoded into the barcode so that it can be scanned. So the human readable number and then the machine readable barcode. What they're expecting in those numbers, in those fields, if you select each one, is UPC is associated to the 12-digit GTIN, that is usually encoded into a UPC barcode. And those numbers are usually issued out of GS1 US. The EAN is a 13-digit GTIN, and those are usually issued out of GS1 member organizations elsewhere. So like GS1 UK, Germany. So it stands for European article number. So, those are, even though also in other areas too, like Asia and such. But that's the 13-digit. And then GTIN on theirs is actually meant to be 14 digits. And that's meant for like a package of products. So like a carton, where you could get, instead of just a single, you get a carton of products. So it's for an upper level package.
Wow, wow, that
Yeah.
is we're getting into some really deep, real info
I
that
know.
is really pretty good to actually understand.
Mhm.
Because when you're making these listings, I get students asking me questions like, "What's the difference between all these?" It's really nice to have you, who's been working with it, certified to know all this stuff, help us through this. So thank you again, Michelle, for the call. Now, I want to also, because that's what we're worried about, making our listings. How are we going to avoid errors and hijacking? So I'm seeing a lot of issues with the brand name. And
Mhm.
it seems like you had some background since you work with Amazon as well. How's the best way to go about it? Because if you press generic, are you able to change that later to a brand name after you get a brand approved or no?
No, so the way that Amazon works, and especially protecting brand names, it can be complex. So if you actually do a listing and associate a brand name to your company, that brand name kind of is associated to your company. If you go to do a generic later on, that'll throw an error, because they're saying, why do you have a generic when you already have a brand name associated to your company? So sometimes that will trigger an error. Sometimes it'll trigger an error if you do click generic, and then you also provide a GTIN, because it's thinking it's a generic product. So why would it have a GTIN? Though they have been changing their rules, because it is, according to the GS1 standards, you can have a GTIN associated to a generic item. So they are working to change that policy. But then some people also want to put a brand name, even though they check generic. And so they don't allow a brand name when you click generic. So you have to just understand what exactly you're trying to list and how you're listing it and what will throw those errors. So there's, a couple of different scenarios that may throw some errors. And sometimes they'll say, refer back to, we've seen where they've said, refer back to GS1 to get your brand name. We don't provide brand names. The company who creates the product creates the brand name. But what we've also seen is, like, they think that their company should be changed to their brand name, or Amazon will ask them to prove that their brand name is associated to their GTINs. And so people think that they should call GS1 and change their company name to the brand name, so that when Amazon checks our database, that it will match that brand name. So I always give the example of, why would you want to change your company name to your brand name? It's like asking Coca-Cola Company to change their company name to Sprite, because Sprite's one of their brands. So it doesn't make sense. So don't try to change your company. Like, it might happen for smaller companies, but Amazon is then trying to have you prove that your brand name is truly associated to your product. And I think we kind of mentioned this before we actually recorded, is then they'll say, okay, how do you prove that this brand name is associated to your product? It has to be affixed to your product. You have to have a picture of it. You have an image of that brand name on your product. Do you have a website? Do you have a trademark? Do you have, things like that to prove that your brand name is associated to your product? And that can be another whole process too.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the main issues we had. I just had a student recently who has a backpack and she's got her brand name permanently affixed on the backpack. Amazon asks for all these specific requirements when submitting these photos to prove that your brand's legit. And they want a real life image of the product with the branding permanently affixed on it.
Mhm.
So we sent the product to Amazon, or the photo of a real life image, the person holding the backpack with the hand and the brand on it, and they still said, "Oh, we can't verify this." So at this point now, we could either attempt to send some more pictures, more clear images, whatever. But at this point, I'm gonna have her take what she's got as far as her trademark and just get all that information matching. Since the trademark matches the brand on the product and the real life images, the more information you can provide that matches one
Yep.
another, like that's what works. Same with when you set up your Amazon seller account. If you have a middle initial in your driver's license and it's not a middle initial when you type in your name on creating your account, they're going to say, "Oh, this is not
It doesn't
matching."
match.
So,
Yep. Yeah.
so
They're very particular.
yeah.
But it's all to
Now,
protect your brand and to ensure that there's not, bad actors out there trying to counterfeit, or, there's reasons for it. So
are there any other errors that you see frequently from people?
at least when they contact GS1 to help them through issues. The other one is a G10 hijacking, and so that will be when you go to list your product. You've come to GS1, you've gotten your G10, your UPC barcode. You go to list the product, and you'll get a product already exists. This product ID already exists, and it's
Mhm.
generally because somebody out there has used even though you've come and you've gotten it, they have used your identifier already on a listing. It could have been their error, could have been a bad actor, somebody just like guessing a number. We don't know. We're not too sure how they get out there. But what we advise sellers when they run into that issue is to provide your GS1 company certificate, your prefix certificate, or your single G10 certificate. Send it to the selling partner support. Um, Clearly state G10 hijacking, because they have some algorithms in their queue that will send it to the right queue, and then it will help get your product listed, and it will remove the unauthorized user of that G10. So that's the guidance we've been told. And so if you do end up running into that issue, write G10 hijacking on your little code, and so it'll send it to the right queue within selling partner support.
Okay, that's a great tip. Did not know that one, but I have seen that error come up a number of
Mhm.
times. This product is this, are you trying to list this product? It says, and it's completely not my product, but I'm using the correct UPC or
Right.
GT number. What do you think can help a seller prevent other types of hijackings when someone just jumps on your listing? Because I know there's, if you have your brand approved, if you're trademarked, there's things that can mitigate those hijackers. Is there anything else you can do as far as just proving you are the listing creator, since you've put in that G10 originally, as opposed to someone else that
Yeah.
came on after the fact?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really just proving that you are the owner of that G10. So again, using your certificate and submitting that into the selling partner support queue will help with that. I think also just ensuring that you have all your product information correct, your product description, your images, all of that that's associated, because then, as you list it, you can then prove that that's your product too.
Is there any other key information you just want to share with anyone watching today?
I think too, one of the things we always say is just start off with the GS1 identifier, even if you're selling on Amazon and you don't have your product actually go beep at the checkout stand. Include your barcode on your product, because you never know how successful your product may be, and it might be picked up at a local, brick and mortar retail store, and they're going to require that UPC barcode on your product. And so we've seen sellers have to go back and either repackage or relabel, and it can be costly. So we always say start off with your identifier on your product.
Like I mentioned, guys, down in the description, we'll have the links, the URLs, so you guys can go check out GS1 US. Go check it out. Let's do it
Yeah.
official. Do it right the first time.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
No problem, Michelle. All right. Looking forward. Maybe we can have another chat again if you guys have any other new updates. But until then, we'll see you guys later. Peace.